Week 1 has came and gone. We are finally eyes on week 2. A lot of exciting stuff that happens, a lot of disappointing stuff that happened in week 1. There's certainly a lot to unpack. We're not going to do a full breakdown, but we're kind of do our biggest takeaways and then jump headfirst into week 2, go through some big game breakdowns, do some rapid fire picks, and give teams who we think are on upset alert. And then, of course, talk about what the model has to say about some of these games. So before we do that, Beach, how we doing, brother?
Good. I'm glad we're back. I'm glad that week 1 is over. It was kind of underwhelming for me, but it is football. But I'm just excited for week 2 because I think it's going to be even more exciting than what we just
Yeah. Yeah, man. Week 2, I have a lot of high expectations for some of these teams. I'm looking for some teams to kind of rebound from their week 1 start. There's like we said, a couple disappointments and then also a couple of excitements, but I don't think week 1 tells us a full story of how the full season will be depicted, but certainly can still tell us a lot. But before we dive in, this show is brought to you by Not Beer American Sparkling Water. It is the perfect summer refreshment. It is great stuff for all of you sparkling water fans. There are a couple links in the comments, one for the store locator and then one for the Amazon link if you want it shipped directly to your door. So grab yourself some Not Beer, enjoy it this football season. You can drink it by itself, mix it with whatever, but great stuff. Never a bad time having a Not Beer. Biggest takeaways from week 1, Beach. I'm just kind of rattle off a couple things that stuck out to me the most before we get into week 2 that I kind of want to carry over into week 1. First of all, I think week 1 is honestly still a preseason game, and in a lot of different ways. Obviously, with some of the bigger matchups, like the ones on Thursday, Friday between the Ravens and the Chiefs, and then the Packers and the Eagles, and then Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football, those looked like legit, real regular season games. But in a lot of ways, watching the 1 o'clock slate on Sunday, it looked like a lot of these teams were still shaking off the rust or, trying out some of their new toys and seeing what they could get out of it, and then kind of testing the playbook to see what works as well. Or you have teams like the Bengals that were just still trying to click. They didn't practice together all season. You were missing T. Higgins. Jamar Chase was missing practices. He wasn't able to click with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow missed some practices as well. So it feels like week 1 is still a preseason game, and I'm sure we're going to see some of that leaked over even into week 2. So kind of disappointing there on a lot of different ways. Kind of a tangent off of that, only 8 teams had a pass rate over expected in week 1. There was an extensive amount of running the football in week 1, something that we've not seen in the past few years in the game that we know and love. And so this game, we talk about the NFL has moved towards more of a pass-centric, a quarterback-focused type of offense, type of league, really. And it's funny because we kind of revert the clock back a little bit. I mean, so many teams ran the ball more than expected. So I'm not sure if that'll click, but if it does, it's certainly an interesting development and something that will change the way that we kind of perceive, or at least me personally, how I perceive some of these matchups. Because if we're going to have more aggressive teams on the running game rather than the passing game, then I think that certainly warrants a little bit of slight perspective change and for some of these teams. So that certainly stuck out to me the most. Panthers, Giants, Commanders are awful. Those are just the low man on the totem pole. I feel like outside of those teams, anybody can beat anybody on any given day except for those teams. And I'm sure there'll be some exceptions at some point. At least the Commanders have some hope, like a glimmer of hope at the quarterback position. And maybe some new administration, new coaches, new front office, and new everything. But man, things are looking bleak for the Panthers and the Giants, like really bad. I mean, Daniel Jones, $160 million quarterback, couldn't shred a Vikings team that is depleted on both sides of the ball. Vikings look good. Maybe that's more of the Vikings finding success, but still disappointed in this Giants team and Brian Daboll. And then Bryce Young. God, you can only feel bad for the guy. I didn't have high hopes for him, but I had hopes for him, to turn out and be a relatively decent player in the league. Maybe he will be, but, I expected a slight jump forward with a new offensive-minded head coach in Dave Canales, one that did well with Baker Mayfield. Maybe it was just Baker Mayfield that was so good after week one. You could make that argument. But it's going to be rough sledding for Bryce Young and the Panthers over the next few weeks.
I think that he'll progress as the season goes on, but that team has so many holes.
Well, the only place that they can go is up at this point.
That's true. That's very true.
We better hope so. The last big takeaway that I have, and this may be my personal fandom, coming out a little bit, but Kirk Cousins is worse off than expected. He did not look good in week one at all. There was 0 play action plays called for Kirk Cousins in week one, which is his bread and butter at the Vikings. That's what they fed off of, So they ran out of the shotgun for the most part. Almost all of the plays were out of the shotgun because he couldn't do any sort of 3-step drops or any sort of play action out of a pro formation or I formation. So just really perplexed in a lot of different ways about this Falcons offense. I have to manage expectations because, at best case, it's going to take a few weeks for him to get comfortable and confident on that Achilles. Worst case, he just has lost all sort of explosion and confidence just in general. And so that's something that I'm going to be watching for personally, just as a fan, but also generally as for the Falcons, because I did have this team winning the NFC South and pretty handily. But now it looks like the Bucs are going to be the front runners here for the foreseeable future. So there were plenty of other things that I could have put on here, but those were just some of the biggest ones that stuck out to me the most. Beej, you got anything yourself?
Yeah, just really just one broad takeaway. I feel like everyone will look at week one and judge what a team's going to do for the rest of the season based off that one game. That's just not true. Like, definitely looks like, Baker, and it looks like I was wrong about the Bucs and them actually being like really good and they're going to win the division. But they played the Commanders, who have like one of the worst secondaries. So you just got to take everything with a grain of salt because it's just one matchup, and some teams match up really well and really bad against each other. So
yeah, and I think for those who watch the show and have a particularly keen interest in sports betting, I think this week is one week where you can kind of take advantage of that. You'll see some recency bias where a lot of people will come in and bet a team to close the spread or even enlarge the spread in some cases based on solely on their week one performance. And, if it may seem that way after, judging in a vacuum how these teams looked in week one, but you got to take into consideration they're shaking off the rust. There may be a little lack of chemistry. There's this, they're still not in game shape yet, or they got the week one nerves out of their system. So week two is always a good week to kind of take advantage of some recency bias that is inevitably there every week, but especially early in the season. So week two is going to be fun. It always is. Now, it's interesting. There's not many tight games on this slate. In fact, most of the games we're going to talk about have a relatively large spread, except for the Bills and the Dolphins. The closest game on the slate is actually the Giants versus the Commanders, where we'll save everybody from going too much into that game. But Thursday Night Football, actually a good game, which is kind of awesome. Typically, Thursday Night Football is like, just a slog between two teams who are very, very mid. So Bills go to Miami and play the Dolphins. Dolphins are 2.5 point favorites in this game. The total sitting around 49, and Miami expect the weather to be immaculate. Dolphins are beat up a little bit. Tyreek Hill, he's not injured, but he's dealing with the whole outside noise about the whole incident of him getting arrested heading into week one. That was very controversial in a lot of different ways. Devon Achane is questionable. He did practice today. Raheem Mostert was ruled out. So They're kind of limping into this a little bit, but for the most part, they'll be around 90-95% in terms of their roster availability. So Josh Allen and the Bills are also relatively healthy as well. No major injuries on their front. Josh Allen continues to elevate players around him left and right, and that's even more evident as the years go on. We saw him take over this game in every which way. If you go and look from just strictly a statistical perspective, this was Josh Allen and Josh Allen only. I mean, he spread the ball out. You know, if you had to guess which players would have a big game when the Bills scored over 30 points, aka Dalton Kincaid, didn't have those points. Like it is all on the shoulders of Josh Allen. He spreads the ball out to everybody, and then when the game is on the line, he just takes over with his legs. So this guy is, more often than not, he is the best football player on the field at any given moment. So I just love watching him. I love watching him play. I just had to comment that like every time I watch him, it's legit insane the things that he can do. Now the Dolphins, of course, I think have the edge on the offensive side of the ball, especially at home. I really, really do like this Dolphins team. The model actually really likes this Dolphins team. It has them about 24-21, so right around the 3, kind of in consensus with what Vegas has. But I think the Dolphins win here, and I actually think the Dolphins cover. Paige, I'll get into some numbers here in a minute, but what's your thoughts on this game? Who do you like here?
Yeah, I really, really struggled with this one. I went back and forth for a long time. I mean, what you're saying is right. Josh Allen is Superman, and we talked about it a while back about a player literally just being the team. Like, if they didn't have him, I mean, they'd be terrible. But I like the Bills to cover. I don't even know what to say. I don't know why it's so difficult for me to describe this, but I do think that the more likely than not, like, I think the Bills can win this game. I also think it can be really close, and then also think the Dolphins can win this game. But I'm gonna take the Bills as the underdog to cover, just in case that it is close or the Bills win.
Yeah, I mean, it's, this game, every time it's played, it's always competitive. It's always fun. It's always competitive. Both offenses always show out. It kind of seems like, and, I have really no basis of this or no like objective facts sitting in front of me right now. I could probably Google it, but it always seems like this game starts slow, and then at the end of the games, it just erupts. That's where offenses start to click and take advantage of the defenses once they figure out what exactly is going on. So, I understand, like, it's funny because I've argued with people before about Josh Allen, like, being the guy that just completely carries his team, which he does, but he can win games. Like, they can beat just about anybody, even though he's the one solely carrying this offense. And like, people will argue, and it's like, oh, he's the only one, like, he's the only reason they're winning. We're like, yes, that's the way that it is. And when you're that good, it just doesn't matter. If you can continue spreading the ball out, if you can continue running the ball the way that he does, especially in the red zone, they can beat anybody. He can beat anybody. So, and of course, the Bills always have a good defense backed by Sean McDermott's brilliant defensive mind. So that always puts them in position to win. But I do like this Miami team. I do think they have the edge on the offensive side of the ball. They have a solid defensive unit as well. Just statistically speaking, obviously, I already said the model favors the Dolphins right around what Vegas does as well. But this offense is just so explosive in a lot of different ways. I actually think they left a ton of yards and opportunities on the field against the Jaguars. And given that it was the first game of the season, if they connect on just one or two more of those plays, it's a different looking game from the Dolphins' perspective, and it's not as close as what the score may have depicted that last game in Jacksonville. So I'm on the Dolphins here. I actually really like the Dolphins to win. I think that they're going to surprise everybody. And I think this is the one that the Dolphins take, just given that it's at home, it's earlier in the season. And that's typically when Mike McDaniel thrives. People don't have a whole lot of film on what type of offense it's going to be. I still like the Bills to win the division as the underdog, surprisingly. Well, maybe not now that the Jets got absolutely whacked on Monday Night Football by the 49ers. But this is the one that the Dolphins steal since it's at home. It's earlier in the season. I like the Dolphins from a statistical perspective and just from an X's and O's perspective heading into this game.
Do you have the same opinion if Chan is out?
Yes. I think Jalen Wright and Jeff Wilson will handle that backfield totally fine. So,
Gotcha.
as long as Tyreek and Jalen Waddle are healthy, I think they're set.
Well, Jalen cleared concussion protocol, right? Because he did go into the tent last week. I think he cleared.
He came back out.
Okay.
Yep, he'll be good to go. So, all right. Hey, Bengals and Chiefs. Bengals struggled last week. They lost to the Patriots. Now, we got to give credit to the Patriots where credit is due. Their defense is great. Christian Gonzalez is great. He did really well against Jamar Chase. This is kind of what I was talking about with the with kind of the lack of like chemistry. I know Jamar and Joe have played together for years, even since in college, but when you don't play for a while, when you don't practice together for a while, or in volume, you can kind of miss a few things. And football's a game of inches. We saw that with Isaiah Likely's toe in the end zone on Thursday Night Football against the Chiefs, and even just 1 millisecond of time difference when you're in the passing game between a quarterback and a wide receiver can mean a world of difference. So I think the Bengals are really shaky. Obviously, they lost the first game of the year to the Patriots, but they've done that in the past. Like last year, they lost 24-3 against the Cleveland Browns, and that was when. And so I think the Bengals always historically have started the season slow. And then I think we can also attribute some of that to just all of those players, especially the offensive skill players, just not being on the field in practice or in a game at the same time. So there's still going to be some warming up to do. But with that being said, I don't think the Chiefs should take this team lightly. I don't think they will, especially with the rivalry that's going on. The Chiefs look great. I think
Really,
this
really
roster
good.
is better than their Super Bowl winning team last year. And I mean, their offensive weapons are going to be nasty. We saw Xavier Worthy have a coming out party in the first game of his career with 2 touchdowns on just like 3 touches. Rashee Rice, dog, I mean, he's just a threat underneath. I mean, they still have Travis Kelce. He won't be as involved, but involved nonetheless. And then Isaiah Pacheco just runs hard. So this team is going to be even scarier than the Super Bowl team that they were last year. But I still think the Bengals can actually make a push, all things considered. I think this is one of those games where recency bias can creep in for a lot of people and be like, this is an absolute smash for the Chiefs, which it very well may be. But let's not pretend like I want to take a side note here. The differences in performance on the NFL level are so razor thin that make a team look good and bad. The way that the Bengals performed against the Patriots, like it's not that big on a wide range of spectrums. Like each team, the talent level and the performance level, as much as it seems like drastically different, it's actually a lot thinner than what people think, just because of the talent that are on these teams. So also consider that, like, just because what you saw out of week 1, don't take that into huge weight over into week 2 as you kind of judge this game heading into week 2. So, Beej, before I throw anything else out, what's your gut feeling about this game? Bengals go to Arrowhead to play the Chiefs, and once known as Burrowhead. At home.
For a time.
I'm just saying.
For a time. Yeah, I think that the Chiefs look so ready to three-peat. Like they look so damn good. But we can't judge everything by the first week. On the Bengals side, T. Higgins wasn't playing, he's still a little banged up. Jamar was having the contract dispute issues, and I think they are, as a team as a whole, like kind of shaky at the moment, and they will get better, like you said. But going into Arrowhead with the Chiefs firing on all cylinders, I think that the Chiefs are going to go ahead and cover this one. at home in Arrowhead. I wish it was a primetime game. It's not. It's at 4:30. But and it's nothing like against the Bengals and them losing to the Patriots. I just think that it's very difficult to beat the Chiefs at home in general, especially right now. And I just think that the full body of work for the Chiefs is better than the Bengals at this point in the season. And I think that it is a little high, the 5.5, but I think that I'd like the Chiefs to cover 5.5.
Yeah, it's really tough for me to get on board with this because I mean their woes continue. T. Higgins did not practice. Jamar Chase is still. I mean he's playing, but it's just it's still a weird situation off the field with that whole ordeal.
And they don't like they don't even have Joe Mixon, like who's like fine running back, but they have Zach Moss, like Chase Brown, like the weapons there are like non-existent for Joe. And then Joe was messing with his wrist, which might all be all noise. But I just want to point that out, lack of weapons at this point in the season.
Yeah, I agree. Now the model has this as a 4-point game for the Chiefs. Chiefs -4, 4.5. So again, that's kind of one of those things where it's like you can't take what you saw in week 1 into consideration as much. Now, there are exceptions where you could be like, hey, the Bengals, they performed poorly. T. Higgins still not practicing. Jamar Chase, still weird ongoing situation off the field. And the Chiefs, they're only going to get stronger. I mean, they've had the extra week after playing on Thursday Night Football. The extra half week to recover. Get it at 5.5 where you can. I think it's going to be 6.5 or 7. So, I'm on board with that as well. I just want, I went through all of that talk about recency bias just to pick the Chiefs, but I just wanted to know that that's not why I'm doing this. I know the model still has Bengals -4, -5, but I do like the Chiefs here at home. The offense is better than it was last year. The defense is still just as solid as it was last year. They're a top 10 team in an offensive EPA margin and 6th overall in defensive EPA margin as well over the past 5 games. So, lots to be excited about if you're a Chiefs fan. A lot to not be excited about if you were a anti-dynasty person. 80% of the bets are on the Bengals, which was surprising to me. After both of these teams' games last week, this line opened up at 3.5 before the season even started, but it's obviously been pushed up more and more and more. But 20% of the tickets are on the Chiefs. 87% of the money is on the Chiefs. Massive differential between the money and the volume of tickets. So I think you can probably say that some of that is sharp money, without a doubt, on the Chiefs, and big money, of course, stating the obvious, on the Chiefs. So give me the Chiefs to win at home. I'll also take the Chiefs to cover, but I'm not super excited about it. This game itself right now, as it stands, is totaled at 47.5. I kind of like the under. If I'm being honest, I don't think it's going to be, your typical Burrow versus Mahomes game. I think it's going to be a bit slow paced, and that's kind of going to be due to the Bengals wanting to make it slow paced. Excuse me. But again, totals aren't my thing. Just throwing that out there. Okay. Before we move on to the next game, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe to the video, as well as comment your picks for week 2. We love to scan the comments for who you guys like, who you guys don't like, and those bold predictions as we head into week 2. So we appreciate you guys, and we love you guys. Hope you stick around. Okay. I was questioning putting this game on here, but I had to throw it on here nonetheless because it features 2 young quarterbacks that are polarizing in a lot of different ways. Bears go to Houston to play the Texans. Texans are 6.5-point favorites at home. The total is 45.5, give or take a half point there. Texans just beat the Colts in a thriller this past week, man. Both of those young quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson and CJ Stroud, look electric in a lot of different ways. I mean, CJ Stroud is just so good at the game of football. Now, if you flip it over to the Bears, it was a little bit different story. Caleb Williams did not have a great debut. In fact, he owes his defense steak dinners and a couple beers due to that performance. I think the Titans, after halftime, could have punted the ball on 1st and 10 every drive. I think that's what the coach said and won. How embarrassing. I think that's what Brian Callahan said. So yeah, Bears, they win. That's a huge confidence booster for Caleb Williams. Now, Caleb Williams did not look good, but I think that there are a couple instances in that game where we would be talking a little bit differently about him as well. Specifically the Keenan Allen drop in the end zone, which is very unlike Keenan Allen, but he did nonetheless drop a touchdown in the corner of the end zone that would have made Caleb Williams' day look a little bit better. So I say all of that. Bears go to Houston, play the Texans at home, or where the Texans are at home. Texans defense is elite, I think, in my opinion, in a lot of different ways. I think the Colts are just good enough and they play fast enough where they could get all those points on the board against the Texans defense. But, man, they generated a ton of pressure. And when you look at what Anthony Richardson he was stymied in the passing game aside from that 6-yard bomb. So this defense is going to be a tough defense to face at home, especially for Caleb Williams. And then this Texans offense, I think will feast against this Bears defense. I know we just had a great performance out of the Bears defense at home against Will Levis. CJ Stroud is not Will Levis. CJ Stroud has elite wide receivers, 3 elite wide receivers starting for him, and then seemingly an elite running back in Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon turned the clock back, and we're seeing a younger version of himself with 30 carries, 30 touches in the game against Indianapolis. So, yeah, this game, as much as I have a few words to say about the Bears and why I think or how I think they can keep it close, but it's just really, really hard for me not to be excited about the Houston Texans in this game and the potential chance for them to shred this Bears defense. Beach, what do you got for this game? Let me know.
Yeah, the Texans are very good. I'll start with them. Okay, now I want to say that it was a 2-point game, right? 29-27 that the Texans beat the Colts, but it was in Indianapolis, and the Colts play so fast that they were able to have a 60-yard touchdown and a 45-yard touchdown, which are kind of like jump ball plays. So really, I mean, I don't think the score shouldn't have been this close. I will also want to point out that Anthony Richardson only completed 9 passes. That's crazy. So this defense is for real. The offense and the weapons they have is for real, and they're really good. On the Bears side, you always know there's going to be growing pains with a rookie quarterback, and he's got great weapons, but now Keenan's a little banged up, and Adunze might have a torn MCL or sprained MCL, I think is what it was. So there's definitely some growing pains with this team, and they definitely should not have won that game against the Titans. I can't believe they did, but I think that the Texans are going to have a bit of a field day on both sides of the ball. Is this in Houston? Yeah.
Yep. At home in the Dome for the Texans.
Yeah. I think that it's wheels up this week for CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans. The spread that I got it at was 6. Is that what it is currently?
Yeah, 6.5 now. It's about to start creeping up, if we're being honest.
It's really difficult for me to take something that's over 6 because when they go to overtime, if you have minus 6.5 or higher, it's never going to hit because they don't kick an extra point. So yeah, I got it at 6.
Yeah,
that's what I would
same
take.
here. I got it at 6 as well. So some actionable stats for this game. Well, we'll get into the numbers first because I want everybody to hear this. 87% of the tickets are on the Bears right now from my tracker. It is currently Wednesday before the Sunday in which they play. They are the Sunday night football game. 87% of the tickets. But listen to this. This is what's crazier. Only 8% of the total money is on the Bears. So 92% of the money being bet right now is on the Houston Texans. I mean, this will normalize as we get closer to Sunday because a lot of people don't bet until 5 minutes before the game happens. But this is a good way to kind of view who thinks what about these particular games, because only people who have a vested interest or people who have a really bad problem are betting this earlier in the week.
Or both.
Are betting this early. And so 92% of the money that's being poured in on this game, in particular on the spread, is on Houston spread. And so I think that's why we're kind of seeing a drive up a little bit. So I agree, man. I think the Texans are going to go absolutely bonkers on this Bears defense. I think a lot of people will have the illusion that the Bears defense is good after how they handled the Titans offense, but they still struggle. They're still a bottom tier defense just due to the roster construction. They may exceed expectations like they did last Sunday in some cases, but it is not sustainable. And with the team, I mean, the Texans are a top 5 offense in the league right now, as long as all of those guys are healthy. So they're going to shred them up. CJ Stroud's a top 4 quarterback in EPA margin, 6.8 yards per attempt. He's just a dog. He's so good. His accuracy percentage is top 10 as well. I mean, they're going to have a day. I think they're going to have a day, especially with Rome Odunze out and fat Keenan Allen. I love Keenan Allen. He's fat. He's fat.
No, his weight was wrong. Not fun.
He's
Don't
fat.
make fun of him.
All right. Well, enough said about that game. I selfishly put this game on the list, so if you guys don't like it, y'all can suck it.
Is it Falcons?
Falcons go to Philadelphia and play the Eagles. The Eagles are 6.5-point home favorites, and the total is sitting at 47. I mentioned how ugly the Falcons looked, and I have zero confidence in Kirk Cousins' ability to throw the football right now. It's a huge concern. I'm hoping that this talent that he's surrounded with Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson will elevate them a little bit. But it's still concerning nonetheless that they lost to a bad Steelers team. I mean, the Steelers defense is a top 5 unit in the league, hands down, especially when TJ Watt is healthy. So I can attribute some of their woes to that. But at home in the Dome, with your healthy weapons, you got to take advantage of that, especially against the Steelers offense who, and I mean, George Pickens was their sole like offensive generator. Like if without George Pickens making these crazy plays, they would have been in a bad spot. So
the offense didn't score.
They didn't. No, it was Chris Boswell.
Just field goal.
It's Arthur Smith offense for you. I hate that Arthur Smith won. As a Falcons fan, watching him come back to Atlanta and then win in the manner that they won, just made me want to throw my computer through my TV screen. So bad. Now, Eagles, I want to talk about them for 60 seconds here. The Eagles did not look great Thursday night. They won. It was a really good win, and they scored over 30 points. They did not look great. A lot of people said that, and I would honestly agree with them. But my counter argument, the Eagles put up 34 points against a good Green Bay team on the road, and not only on the road, international game where they had to fly 10 plus hours to get there. They looked bad, and they still put up 34 points against a good Green Bay team. Are you kidding me? How does that not make you be like, wow, I'm scared for this team for when they figure it out or when they click? I mean, a lot of people are like, oh. Go.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
The numbers are still going to be there even if it's ugly. That's what's so beautiful about it, is that they're still going to put up points and yards regardless of how sexy it looks. With Kellen Moore.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's my counter argument to everybody is like, dude, I agree with you. I think they look like shit in a lot of different ways. I mean, Jalen Hurts' interception at the first part of the game was insanely. They figured it out. They're going to keep figuring it out. They're going to get more comfortable in Kellen Moore's playbook. And if this team stays healthy, watch out. Best offense in the league if they stay healthy, in my opinion. The reason I want to talk about this game is because last time that Kirk Cousins visited the bank, awful. I think he threw like 4 interceptions, if I remember right. Now, this was a Vikings team that was not great, but they weren't bad. But with the state that Kirk Cousins is currently in health-wise, with him just unable to do something as simple as a play-action play, going to Philly, I am mega concerned for this Falcons team, Beach. I am mega concerned. Now, I have faith, and I may be dumb for saying this. I think they can keep it close. But
You're high.
Am I crazy for
You're
thinking
high.
the Falcons can still keep it close?
Yeah, I think so. Do you think the Falcons are going to score 27 points?
21.
Then the Eagles cover. I think the Eagles are going to be able to do whatever they want. Not because the Falcons have a bad defense, just because of early in the season, not a lot of film on what Kellen Moore is using their weapons to do. I think they're going to eat. And yeah, I do. But I will say, Jalen Carter might be the QB killer. So if you're lucky, maybe you'll be put out of the misery early if Kirk gets banged up, and that's big penis energy time coming out with Michael Penix.
I got really upset when we drafted Michael Penix, but maybe
it was smart.
It wasn't the worst thing to do. Maybe I am a fake sharp. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. So, all right. Well, I'm gonna, have blind faith that we can keep it close. Now, I agree. I think the Eagles win this game, and I think it could get ugly quick. The model's doing something weird, and you can kind of see the model projections here, where it thinks the Falcons are going to keep it close as well. I intentionally have it not weight 2024 data heavier than 2023 data, solely because I don't want recency bias to overtake it completely. So take that with a grain of salt, and what you see with these projections here, it's good in a lot of cases, which is why, like I mentioned with the Bengals and the Chiefs game, if I weighted it solely off of week 1 data, the Chiefs would be like 14-point favorites against the Bengals, which I don't think needs to be the case. I still think the Bengals are going to be a good team. I still think they're a playoff team. They just need to get their shit right on and off the field. So, excuse me. Now, do I disagree with the model projections here? Absolutely. 100%. I think the team score for the Falcons should be around 17 rather than the 23 that it is right now. Maybe if Kirk Cousins was his old self, I would agree with the projections here. But I do not here. I disagree fully and wholly. So, Eagles win. I'm still going to take the Falcons cover out of blind sheer hope. Okay. Let's move on. Let's do rapid fire picks, and we'll do, since we're running out of time here, we want to give you some time back. We'll do our teams on upset alert in conjunction with the rapid fire picks here. Okay. How does that sound, Beach?
I like it.
Okay.
I'm ready to go.
Saints go to Dallas and play the Cowboys. Cowboys had a really impressive win at Cleveland against a really, really good Browns defense. Now the Browns offense is a whole nother story, but still, nonetheless, good to go in the dog pound and get a win like that, a statement win. Same for the Saints. They just knocked the dog shit out of the Panthers at home. 6.5 points for the boys at home. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the Cowboys are going to do what they always do, which is perform really well at the beginning of the season just to flame out playoffs. So, I think the recency bias people would take the Saints here, but I'm not the people. So, I'm going to take the Cowboys.
Cowboys minus 6.5 for me. I'm taking the Cowboys to cover as well. Model also has the Cowboys. Cowboys by 10 for the model.
Let's go, Scarlet.
Scarlet's feeling the Cowboys. Seahawks go to Patriots. Patriots coming off of a really, really confidence-boosting win last week. Seahawks played one of the weirdest football games I've seen in a while. Seahawks are 3.5 point. Excuse me. Spread here is 3.5. Beach. What do you think?
I took Seattle minus 3.5. I do think that the Patriots could win this game at home, though. Being home underdogs, but I'm going to stick with what I started with, so I'm going to go. Christian Gonzalez might, or he's going to play really well, probably against DK, so that's going to be, Lockett and JSN have to perform underneath.
I hope it's JSN.
Me too, man. God, me too. He might get the opportunity if Christian Gonzalez is on DK, but yeah, I'm going to go Seattle. Rapid fire.
Okay. Yeah, I like it. And I will just drop it here for everybody's knowledge, if I can find it. Mono likes the Seahawks in a tight game, 22-19. So, moving on. Raiders go to Baltimore to play the Ravens at home. Ravens are 8.5-point favorites, and I'm going to take the Ravens, if I'm being honest with you here at 8.5.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Ravens also. You think that, the Raiders were not able to penetrate the Chargers' offensive line because Chargers have a really good offensive line, but the Ravens don't. So there's a possibility that the Raiders are able to wreak havoc on the Ravens O-line, but I still think that the Ravens are going to cover because the Raiders can't score. So
that's my whole thing too. Is like even if they do start the game off, giving this Ravens offensive line in particular, a hard time.
Yeah.
I just don't think that the Raiders offense is going to be able to go to Baltimore and score on this defense. And when I mean that, I mean that in all seriousness, they'll be lucky to have 2 or 3 field goals, in my opinion. The model has Ravens 24, Raiders 18. Okay. Bucks go to Detroit to play the Lions. I got this line at 6.5. This line's already up at 7.5 right now. So obviously that 7 in the hook changes a lot of perspective here. But Beej, if you were to bet it at 7.5, which way would you lean here?
It's so hard because Lions are going to be at home, and the Bucks just looked really good, but they played the Commanders, and so 7.5 I think is too high. I do. I think the Bucks are gonna cover 7.5. I still think the Lions will win. And the Lions could blow them out. I don't know, but I am gonna halfway say I was wrong about the Bucks until it's proved wrong on the other side. So I think they've still got firepower in them, and I think that they cover the 7.5. Big spread.
I agree. Actually,
yeah,
I agree.
It's a difficult one.
It is tough. The model has the Lions -5 for this game. I know the Bucks just look red hot, but again, to your point, it was against a Washington team who is ass cheeks. Now the Lions, they did not look like their normal selves, but it was against a Rams defense that is wildly underrated. Underrated. So I think they're going to exploit this Buccaneers defense. The Buccaneers defense has a ton of injuries in the secondary, so take that into consideration too. We may see a Jared Goff game here in the Dome. Give me the Lions over as well. Jets go to the Titans, play the Titans. As ugly as it is, I mean, I'm seeing some statistical stuff that say the Titans could actually cover. Maybe not win, but cover. Beach, who do you think? Titans +4 at home? Or Jets -4?
Oh, it's 4 now?
Yep.
I'll take the Titans.
The model has Jets -5. It's going to be a slow-paced game, and that's you can make an argument here that even if you think the Jets win and it looks like they win handily, it could still be close in the sense that the Titans score garbage time touchdown to make it close, and next thing we know, it's a 3-point game. So I'm taking the Jets here to cover along with the model, but confident in that, not in any which way.
Not at all.
Maybe Aaron Rodgers is still kind of getting his legs under him, getting comfortable back in game situations. So Will Levis can make some good plays, but he's just reckless when he does so. So that's my only concern for the Titans here. I'll take the chalk with the Jets. Browns go to the Jaguars. Deshaun Watson is so bad. He is so bad. You can actually get the Jags -3 at some books here. So I'll just go ahead and say it. I'm taking the Jags here, even though the Browns defense is good enough to win them games outright. The model has Jags -2.5 in this game. It will be closer. It will be a little bit lower scoring than I think people will like. But I think this Jaguars team is going to be better just in the year in general. I don't think we see another game where Trevor Lawrence has as little completions as he had against the Dolphins. It was kind of a weird game script. But I think the Jaguars are going to regress to the mean in a lot of different ways. And I think that as long as Deshaun Watson is the starter for this Browns team, they will not win games.
I agree. And I think it's a big bounce back for the Jaguars, even though that Cleveland defense is really good. This is in Jacksonville. I think that Trevor Lawrence is going to have his head screwed on straight this week, and they will cover the 3.
Okay. 49ers go to Minnesota to play Sam Darnold's Vikings. The Vikings are good, question mark?
Yeah.
Kind of good. Can the Vikings cover
good
against this 49ers team at home in the Dome?
Hell no. No way, dude. No, the 49ers are great again, even without CMC. And, yeah, I mean, Vikings looked good. Yeah, against the Giants, who are garbage. And
give me the Vikings to cover.
Let's get out of here.
I'll take the Vikings to cover.
I mean, Sammy D is a king. But no,
dude, I think that I agree the 49ers are so great. I think it's going to be one of those things like we mentioned above where it's a 14-point game as we get into the fourth quarter and the Vikings score last minute with like a D ball to Jefferson or something. And
Addison's hurt, right? He sprained his ankle.
Yeah. Well, Jalen Taylor, he's going to step up. He's good.
Wait, Naylor?
Yes.
You're talking about? Yeah, I mean, you got Naylor and Jefferson and Johnny Munt. And I mean, I don't see it. I don't see it.
Okay.
I like the Niners.
Well, Colts, Anthony Richardson go to play the Jordan Love-less Packers. Packers are 3-point home dogs at Lambeau with Malik Willis under center. Do you think Anthony Richardson to go to Lambeau and steal a win? Or do you think the Packers will prevail?
I think that the Colts are going to win solely because Malik Willis is ass. And I think he'll lose it for him. I think he'll throw a pick or two. And I think the Packers have a great defense and they've got great weapons everywhere. But they do have LaFleur. No, I think Richardson completes more than 9 balls and they're able to win 27-21.
Yep. No, I agree. And so, easy enough. Giants go to Washington, play the Commanders. Commanders are 1.5 point favorites.
Game of the week.
Who do you got, Commanders or Giants?
Well, I just forgot who I picked, so let me look because I don't remember. I've got the Commanders. Jane Daniels' first win.
All right. Hey, the model has Commanders -1, so kind of on cue here. So I'll just ride with the model in these. I never like, if the model, in the model we trust. Rams go to Cardinals. Rams are almost all in IR. They're like 3 offensive linemen plus Puka Nacua are on IR, so they will go in there injured nonetheless. The Cardinals are 1.5 point home favorites. Who do you like in this game?
Well, you talked about the Rams' underrated defense already, which people won't think about. And I need everyone to stop fading Matthew Stafford. It doesn't matter who is on his team. I don't care if Puka's out. He's going to, have Cooper Kupp at 21 targets. He's going to do the same thing again. And Colby Parkinson is plenty fine. Kyron Williams can run the ball. They're gonna win. They're gonna win. The Rams are gonna win. They're gonna cover.
Dude, is Penny barking in her cage?
I think it's Ranger.
Oh, okay. I was about to say something.
Myself.
No, it's all right. We're at the end of it now. Steelers go to Broncos. Broncos at home for Bo Nix's first home game of the year. Do you think the Broncos can cover the 2.5, or do you think the Steelers go in and win and cover the 2.5?
Steelers take it, man. The defense is way too good.
I agree. I actually agree with you here. I think
too good.
I think the Broncos are going to keep it close. I think Bo Nix is going to, do a little bit more running. He's going to use his legs a bit more. but it's going to be tough going against this defense, dude. I think that Mike Tomlin will just have a field day getting after the quarterback here in this game. So, hey, man, that wraps it up for our week 2 breakdown. Guys, we appreciate you listening. We will, of course, be back here for week 3. We will have more data. The model will have more data, and we will have more to make inferences from. So we are excited, and we will talk to you guys next week.